Yeah. Okay, welcome back to Idiot Geniuses. Today we're going to be interviewing the first ever real guest we've had on here. We're here with director, writer, actor Nigel Bach, famous for the Bad Ben franchise, and it's just good to have him on. It's how are you, Nigel?
Great. Based on that interview, I was thinking as you were introducing me, I'd like to meet that guy.
Yeah, so your first Bad Ben movie was released like 2016, 2017, yeah, just around that.
It was released in October of 2016.
Yeah. So what okay, first of all, what really gave you the idea to start to get into filmmaking, like in general? Like did just one day you were just like, hey, I want to do this, or was it like a long in the making kind of thing?
Well, I've always been a fan of film in general. And I had written many screenplays. I would have liked to have one day have been in the business from that standpoint, writing screenplays and having them produced. But it's a very, very tough business to break into. And it's especially tough if your last name isn't like Sorkin or something. If you're not related to somebody that's famous, it's very tough to break into. But I was producing small market television commercials for Comcast. So when I say television commercials, I want to do a commercial like, say, for Pizza Hut, but I would do a commercial for Joe's Pizza, which is down the street, and they would be inserted into local markets. I was doing that, and people used to say to me, "Hey, you own all the equipment, and why don't you produce your own screenplay?" Well, that's easier said than done, because just because you own a camera doesn't mean you can make Avatar.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I had to take and make something. I had to make a film that I could make on the equipment I had. And that's what led me to the idea of found footage, because found footage is usually meant to look like it'd been shot on the average video camera someone might own. Now, I had for, as you may or may not know, all the films were shot in my actual home.
Oh yeah,
And
I did
for
know
10
that.
years, up until 2013, I took care of my mother in this home, and she passed away peacefully in 2013. But I had surveillance cameras everywhere. So when I would be out of the home, I could keep an eye, make sure she was okay. Excuse me. And I could watch the home health aides and the people taking care of her and just what was going on in the house.
Oh, okay. Because I
So
was
at night,
wondering.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say because I was wondering, like, did you if you put up all the cameras like while you were filming, but no, they were already in the house before you started doing that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, what happened was I would put her to bed, and then I'd be sitting there, or I'd go to bed, and I'd bring up my phone and look at the cameras, and I would say, you know what would be weird as hell would be if something walked across that room right now. And so after, this was a couple years after her passing, I decided that's what I should do. I should make a found footage film that appears to have been shot on security cameras within a home. But I wasn't originally supposed to be in the film. And the whole concept of the original film changed one day on the spot. I had hired 6 actors to be in the film. And the storyline was going to be a college-age female is in the house. She is there alone, and her parents are away, and her boyfriend comes over and 2 other couples, and one by one, they all disappear until the female lead's the only one left, and she somehow survives. Not the most original idea, but something I could do. One by one, as the date approached in May of 2016 to begin filming, the actors dropped out. And it's not, I mean, unlike a lot of indie films, I actually pay people that are in my films. And so it wasn't for lack of being paid, or it's not that they didn't like the stories. They just, for various reasons, dropped out until all I had left was the female lead. And on a day in May of 2016, as I'm driving down my street in a pouring rainstorm, I get a text from her because I figured I'll just make a film where she's alone in the house and stuff's happening to her. As I'm driving down the street to my house, I get a text from her that says, moving to LA, can't be in your film. Sorry, good luck. Now that's 2 days before we're starting filming. So I say, shit. And I just drop my phone in the passenger seat. I give up. I'm driving. About 30 seconds passes. I scoop up that phone and start filming myself. And I just made this up on the spot. I said, here I am on my way home from the house I bought on Steelmanville Road at a sheriff's sale. And I pull in the driveway, flip the camera around, and I say, not bad for a sheriff's sale. And that became the opening scene in one take for my movie. That became the opening scene to my film. And I seriously thought to myself, okay, if I make this film just with myself, who's going to want to watch a bald, fat, 50-year-old guy running around the house, getting the crap kicked out of him by demons and ghosts? And I said, what do I have to lose? So I just started filming. And the nice thing about being the only person in a film in your own house, I could wake up at 2 a.m., have an idea, get out of bed and film it. And that's how a lot of Bad Ben came together. But how I shot it, I shot the opening scene and I shot the ending. And then I had to shoot things to make point A reach point B. So I shot everything in between after shooting the opening and the beginning. And that's how Bad Ben came together. No script, just improv. As ideas came to me, I put them together, and that's how it came together.
That's really interesting. So the whole opening scene was literally seconds after
I got rejected by everybody. I got to tell you though, when this went, originally I submitted it to a film festival and waited 4 months till the absolute last day when they would notify you whether you're in or not. And that was in late September. And I got an email from them that said, sorry, we're going to pass, which I was okay with because it might not be everybody's cup of tea. But I did catch them in a little something. To apply to this film festival, you had to pay a fee and you had to send them a link, an unlisted link on YouTube to your film, which I did. And what they didn't know at the time was there's this thing called Google Analytics, and Google owns YouTube, and it tells you a lot about who's watching your film. Well, I found out that the day I submitted to the film festival, which was June the 12th, somebody from their location watched the film for 12 minutes and stopped watching. So I wrote them an email and I said to them, it's okay that you didn't accept my film, but the least you could have done, because I paid the fee, was watch it. Oh, we watched it. I said, no, you did. Yes, we did. And I sent them the screenshot to show what IP address watched it for 12 minutes. But that's okay. That turned out to be good after all, because I then uploaded it to something that at the time was very lucrative. It was Amazon Video Direct, now called Prime Video Direct, where anybody could upload. If you met certain criteria, you could upload to Amazon and be featured on. You could make it free with Prime, or you could rent or sell it. So I uploaded it to Amazon, and I figured maybe a few people would watch it. And nobody was more shocked, and nobody to this day is more shocked by its success than I am. To date, the Bad Ben film itself has been streamed over 150 million minutes, and that was almost all through Amazon.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
So after that, what I thought was, I thought I was making a horror film, but when people reviewed it, they were finding it scary, but also funny. So that's when we decided, based on the success it had, I decided to make a prequel called Steelmanville Road, which was the backstory to why the cameras were in the house, who Bad Ben was, and all that. And I actually had a cast for that one. and it was a much darker film, not meant to be funny at all. And compared to Bad Ben, it bombed. And the reason that turns out to be was because people had fallen in love with the character I play, Tom Riley, who I compare to like Michael Scott in The Office. The guy thinks he's brilliant, but he's really kind of a moron. So so they wanted more Tom Riley. So that's why when we made the sequel, Badder Ben, I embraced the fact that they found it comical, and I brought in people, 2 sketch comedians, Matt and Jackie, and we filmed it a little more funny. And that one was a hit also.
So so when you had the original idea for Bad Ben, it wasn't supposed to be a comedy at all. It was just supposed to be horror.
I thought I was making a horror, but people find the way I talk, the way I look, the way I act, the way I move, found it funny. Am I insulted by that? Not at all. I was just very flattered that so many people watched, and it did so well. It grew so much in popularity. But yes, it's not meant to be. It was not meant to be anything but a horror.
Yeah, like some scene, like it is scary at parts, yeah. But some scenes like made me like I was laughing like when the chair was moving and you tell it to and you just yell at the chair to stop moving. Like I thought that was pretty funny, and like just the way Tom Riley talks, it's just pretty funny. So
Well, people tell me I have a Philadelphia accent. I don't even know what the hell a Philadelphia accent is, because I've never lived in Philly. I've always lived in Southern Jersey, but we're close to there. And when this was the scene where I say "stop it" to the chair, which is something people love to quote, that actually happened because I had a friend of mine, Zach, in the stairwell, and he was pulling a string to pull the chair.
Yeah.
Now, he was supposed to pull the chair once, and I was going to pull it back. And he was supposed to pull the second time, and I was going to pull it back. And that's when it would end. But the second time, he pulled it back again. So I grabbed the chair, and I actually said to him, "Stop it," so he would stop pulling it. But it just fit in there too perfect, so we left it.
So
People quote that all the time. They love to quote the foul language in the movie back to me, which is funny. But when you said about it had funny moments and scary moments, to date, I still think the scariest moment in all the films was when I'm talking and communicating with the music box and it jumps in the coffee table.
Yeah, that probably gets me like every time I watch the movie. Like I'm expecting it, but it still manages to get me.
That worked very well.
So the original budget, it says the original budget of the original Bad Ben was like $300. Is that right? Or is
Well, that's what it wound up costing me to make. The budget was higher because I was going to be paying for actors and all, but none of them wanted to be in it. I wonder now if they've seen it, if they say, we should have been in that. But anyway, it was just, I'd give money here and there to like the friends. I'd have pull strings and do different things in the house behind the scenes. It actually would have been $225, but I bought this $75 harness that I wore that the chain was attached to, where at the end I get drugged across the floor. And that was attached to a harness. And I would have returned that, but I got blood on it, fake blood, so I couldn't sell. That's how it wound up costing $300.
Interesting.
See, that's an accent. I said 300.
Yeah.
At 100. That's a New Jersey accent. That, and to say water instead of water and stuff like that. And I'll say din it instead of dinning it. So I'm just letting people know.
Yeah. So since you were filming in like your own house, were there any difficulties in that? Like, were there ever people living in the house at the time, or was it just you?
I had one roommate, and I still have her. And if anybody's ever seen me do live broadcasts, they see the evil Miss Holly. In fact, she appears at the end of the latest film, Benign. But she lived here, but actually she moved, now that I think about it, she moved in July, and I was done this film by the end of May of that year. So it was basically just me in the house alone. So there was nobody to worry about getting in the way of or irritating. It was just me.
Yeah. And I was wondering, like with the chairs and all that moving around, like it really just was strings. It wasn't anything more complicated than that. It was just pulling strings.
Well, if it wasn't strings, that means I really got ghosts in here. So I'm
Yeah, let's just hope that it was
strings.
strings.
But yeah, it was just strings. And the editing software I use, which is the Adobe Creative Suite, it allows you to do some amazing things. So getting rid of those strings afterwards was not hard to do through editing. So yeah, it just worked, and it worked right. I was very lucky how things came together.
Yeah. Yeah, because the final product is a pretty good movie. Like I enjoy all the Bad Ben movies. Like I feel like they're pretty good. They're pretty good indies.
Pretty good.
What?
I'm just kidding with you. No, like I said, the popularity of it shocked nobody more than me. So it was a lot of fun to shoot. They've all been fun to shoot. I have my favorite. I mean, Bad Ben is my baby. Obviously, that started, but the Haunted Highway, where I become like a rideshare driver for a fictitious company, that was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, that one was pretty interesting. I watched that one recently. I've seen every one of them except I couldn't find Pandemic anywhere, so I didn't know.
Well, right now, you can watch the first 8 of them for free in the United States on an app called Fawsome, which is the word awesome, but with a letter F, like in Frank, in front of it.
Yeah.
It's a free app on most smart televisions, and you can watch 1 through 8 there. Doesn't cost anything because they insert an ad every here and there. And the 9th one that was just released is available for purchase right now, but it's on Vudu, Apple TV, Google Play, just to name a few. It's going to be available other places soon this week.
Cool. And was it always your plan to have, like, because there's 9 movies in this one in the franchise, so was it always your plan to make as many movies as you did, or was it only going to be a one-off thing originally?
Well, originally it was just going to be Bad Ben. And then based on the success of that and the fact, I mean, I'll be honest with you, the fact that I could make money doing it, I then decided it's entertaining to people. I like entertaining people, and I have fun doing these. So that's when I did the second one. And then because the second one wasn't as popular as the first one, I said, well, now I got to do a third one because I can't end on a downer. Now, to be fair, Steelmanville Road had a very good cast, and it has found its own audience and can be a standalone movie. So over time, it has grown its own audience, but not at the rate the other films grew, like almost instantly. But so then I did 3 and then 4, then it just kept going. And we were turning these out about 2 every year until the pandemic struck. And then I knew I wasn't going to be able to get people together during the beginning stages of the pandemic before there was any vaccine or they knew so little about it, that I asked the fans, who we call Benites, if they'd like to be in the film, to just film their own segments, and I would edit them together and make it as though they're having a conversation like you and I are here over video chat. And they'd be coming to me for advice on whether what they were showing me was paranormal or related to the pandemic. And we had a lot of fun doing that. 30 of the fans shot their own segments. We edited together in the film, and it turned out pretty good. People like that too.
Yeah. Okay. One technical question about, like, filming with all the cameras in your house and all that. For the longer scenes, like it was all improv, right? But for like, would you shoot like something on one camera and then go in another room, or like for Like, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but like
No,
for
I
the
know what you
longer
mean.
shots.
Right now, I have 8 GoPros, but back then when I shot this film, I had one. So I used to have to set the camera up, film the scene, and then if I wanted it, like the living room, for instance, had 2 cameras, living room one, living room two. If I want to shoot from the other angle, I then had to move that camera over to the other side of the room and try to make the dialogue match up. And it did come together well. But in most instances, there was only one camera in the room. The trick was when I'd go back to film in that room again, I had to line the camera up just perfectly like it was the last time we were at that location. And that was time consuming, which makes now having 8 of them a lot easier to do.
Yeah, because it seems like it'd be difficult to like sync up everything and all of that with all the cameras shooting at the same time. And
Well, it was a challenge, but fortunately, it came together well.
um, uh, one of my friend's questions was, what was a movie? What out of the Bad Ben, all the Bad Ben movies? What was a certain movie or a certain thing in the movie that you had like difficulty filming, like just like in general?
You haven't seen Benign yet, right?
I have seen Benign. They sent me the screener early, so I
Well, the scene where I don't want to give out spoilers, but the scene where there's 3 of me
yeah.
on there briefly, that was tough to put together. And some of the scenes, I'm trying to think of any particular scene, but a scene where I had to cut out something in the background uh, was quite involved. One of those was had to do with my when I walked across the lighted door, which basically was the night vision is green. So
Yeah.
if I walked across in front of a lit door, I was blocking the light. So I had to be green while walking across. So I had to actually physically use 2 scenes, one with the door lit and one with me green. And I had to cut out around me. So while that might be 2 seconds, 2 seconds is 60 frames of video. So I literally had to cut around me 60 times. And that was time consuming. So, but probably the toughest of all of them was marrying together the 3 Toms that appear in Benign. All 3 of them are me. And my scene, my first nude scene.
Yeah, I laughed pretty hard at that one. Yeah. So you did all the VFX yourself, you're saying then?
Yeah, there's CGI and then there's practical effects. And CGI is amazing nowadays because they can make like Jurassic Park dinosaurs that don't exist, all kinds of stuff. Avengers is full of it. But in the case of my film, I don't have a lot of experience because to make CGI look good, you have to be really good at doing it. And that's quite involved. So most of my effects were done practical. Where there is a hand running across the floor in Pandemic, I actually had a person do that with their hand, but then I had to cut them out. And when you have cameras that are locked down on a tripod, it's a lot easier because you just lay 2 shots from the same angle, one over the other. And if you have somebody walk through and you want, say, for instance, just their head there, you can cut out their body. But because right behind that video is an identical shot of the same room, it makes it easy to get rid of their body and still have it look like it's seamless in one room.
Yeah, because
In fact, I'm sorry. When you said your buddy asked if what was the tough scene to film,
yeah.
the priest's Druggo Jesus.
Oh yeah, the headless guy. Just the head, yeah.
Yeah, that was very time consuming and tough to shoot, but it worked well. People liked that. I might be going to hell because I named him Druggo Jesus, but it worked very well.
Yeah, I thought that and the hand moving or the hand running around and up the stairs and in the attic, I thought that looked pretty good. Yeah.
Pretty good. You throw that pretty good around quite a bit.
What?
I'm just kidding with you, James. Go ahead.
Like, yeah. Is there a Bad Ben movie that you have like I know the first one is your baby and it started everything, but besides that movie, is there a Bad Ben movie that you really like in particular?
7, The Haunted Highway. That was a lot of fun to do. That's where I kind of introduced more additional characters. I did that in Steelmanville Road too, but I was introducing additional characters in different settings, and I went outside of the house. Where the films up to that point had all been, for the most part, inside the house or on the property. The Haunted Highway, I'm in my car, and it's now the dash cams of the car that are doing a lot of the filming. So I got outside of the house to a lot of different locations, and that was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it was a really interesting change of pace to the being confined to your house and then just on the road. It was very good. It was
Very good.
I
Very
caught
good.
myself. I'm
I'll
sorry.
continue with this interview now that you said that.
Another question my friend wanted to ask was if there was any issues with crew or actors throughout filming, but you already said that for the original Bad Ben, it was
Well,
supposed to be.
in the first one, you know what happened where the actors disappeared. One of the reasons why so many of these films feature just me in them is because scheduling multiple people to come together to film these things can get difficult. So, I mean, like for instance, in Bad or Ben, I had 4 different people besides myself. So that meant 4 schedules I had to get to align, and that could be challenging. When I film these, roughly, I can film, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes a day. So that means I could basically have a film done in 10 to 20 days. But if it's just me, I can be available anytime to shoot. When you're involving other people, it might take days to line them up. So, for instance, a film just like Bad Ben, which took me 3 weeks to shoot, other films may take 6 or 8 or more to shoot.
Yeah, so just like 33 weeks to shoot, and it's easier because it's just you. You don't have to worry about anyone else, and it's just yeah, that's
Well,
pretty.
if I get motivated at 2 in the morning, I can't expect to be able to pick up the phone and call these
Yeah.
people and say, I need you here to shoot now. But I can shoot if I need it at 2 in the morning. And the latest film, Benign, it pretty much was just me in the film, except for Steve, who played Father Reynolds. He was available. We would film typically Monday through Friday on that. Monday through Thursday mostly. Take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. And that would also allow me the weekend to edit together what had been shot to see if there was anything we needed to reshoot, anything missing, anything I wanted to add. And so that worked out well.
So I just have some questions like about Benign, if I'm allowed to get some insight on that since it's new.
Anybody that's watching your show right now, if they haven't seen Benign and they want to avoid a spoiler, they might want to turn off the the volume here or stop watching, or they could turn off the volume so they're not hearing it, and you can just give a thumbs up when you're done so they know they can turn it back on. But whatever works for you, go ahead. It's been out a couple weeks,
so since the ending of Benign, so Tom Riley was dead the whole film technically, and did he go to hell in the last seconds of the movie, or like what was that all about?
That's what would appear to have happened. He realizes he's dead. He winds up in the woods. A door opens with flames in it. And typically most people think as, burn in hell.
Yeah.
All is fire and brimstone. And he walked through that door and it shut. So
yeah,
we probably assume he went to hell.
Yeah, and since he's dead and in hell now, is that the end of the Bad Ben saga, or is there going to be do you have other stuff planned other than Bad Ben kind of?
Well, like I always promise my followers and my fans, as long as you keep watching, I'll keep making. So remember, Tom Riley's been dead before. In Bad Ben, he appeared to be dead, but then it
Yeah.
turned out in Badder Ben, he wasn't. So he's definitely dead now, and he has definitely gone to an afterlife somewhere. But the question is that permanent? Or will he continue to function as a ghost or demon or spirit himself? So that's if the series continues, which I would say if you're a gambling person, you'd want to bet that it will. Then there's probably more coming up. When? I don't know, but I never keep people waiting that long. I need to keep you guys interested.
Yeah, like you've done a lot of like Bad Ben related stuff. Like I saw like on your YouTube channel, you had all the movies on there for a little while. You had that animated series, the two. Is
The
there?
Witch Bitch we did was an animated series, and I got to tell you, I love doing animation because with animation, if you want to make a house blow up or a UFO crash or something, you can do anything because it's just drawings. But the one problem with animation is animation takes a long time to do. So it's more involved. But the goal in the future is to get more people involved that would be doing a lot of the heavy lifting there.
Yeah. Because I watched some of that and I liked that. Like it was different from what I usually saw from Bad Ben, but I enjoyed it. And
Well, the Witch Bitch, that was funny. In fact, the Witch Bitch is based on my roommate.
oh.
Sorry, my desk my keyboard fell. But she actually had an appearance at the end of The Haunted Highway. You saw I picked up this person on the side of the road in a red robe with all the black hair. That was based on the character of from the animation.
And you also had like a series where you read scary stories. Did you write those? You wrote those, right?
No, I actually did that during the pandemic just to because people were stuck at home. They didn't know what the hell to do. So we just read some published works and just to give people something to watch. A lot of big celebrities were doing that, reading stories. Some were reading children's stories. And I don't have any kids, so it would be being 55 years old and reading to kids would be a little bit weird. So I didn't do that. We just read some published horror stories, and that wasn't really part of any series. It was just there were videos on there where I had done that.
All right. And since you wanted to get into like screenplay originally, would you ever want to write like a horror story or anything like that?
I have like 5 completed screenplays, and they vary from the genres of comedy to science fiction. Science fiction is actually my favorite. And actually in that whole mix, there's suspense in them, but there's really not what I would call horror. Although one of them has some pretty scary elements to it. But like I said, there's a couple comedies, couple sci-fis, and yeah, I would eventually like to get, have something produced that I made.
Out of like the screenplays that you've written, is there any ones that you would want to share with like just I know you haven't filmed any of them, but
My favorite story is called The Genesis Experiment. And I'll just give you a quick synopsis of it. There's these twin brothers. One of them is a geneticist, and the other one is a priest. And the geneticist is an atheist, basically. He doesn't believe in God or religion. And his brother happens to be a priest. So you can see how it can cause some tension between twin brothers with such different views. Well, the brother that's a priest gets called to the house of a family whose son happened to die while serving in Iraq. And 2 days before the son was killed, he sent a package to his parents that arrived just after they were notified that he had died. And when the priest came to the house, the father took him in the shed and he shows them this box, which inside of it is a marble statue of Christ on the cross. And it's bleeding from the hands and the feet and the wound in the side, and the thorns around the head. And the priest is like, has no idea, what's going on. So they take and they wipe it clean. And then as they watch, the blood continues to flow. And the father says to the priest, have you ever seen anything like that? He says, no. And he says, I can take it and have it looked at and see. And he says, yeah, I need you to get out of here, because if my wife sees it, it'll kill her, because, her son has just died and then this. So the priest takes it and he takes a sample of the blood without telling anybody where it's from. And he gives it to his brother, a geneticist. And he says to him, can you run tests on this and tell me what you can see? I mean, you have a statue, and it's a statue of Jesus. Whose blood is coming out of this statue? So the brother, he doesn't tell him where it's from. He runs tests on it, and he calls his brother, the priest, back, and he says, dude, where'd you get this? And he says, I can't tell you. I promise I'll eventually tell you, but I can't tell you. What'd you find out about it? And he said, well, it's definitely human blood, but it's the purest specimen of blood I've ever seen. It's like the person has either lived in a cave for 2,000 years or came from another planet, because it shows no modern day pollutants, no modern day antibodies. So I'd like to know where you got it from. And he says, I'll eventually tell you. So he says, but you got to get rid of what's left of that specimen. And the brother says, but I want to use this in further testing. He says to Michael, you have to get rid of it. So he agrees, but he doesn't do it. What he winds up doing is using the blood in an illegal experiment called the Genesis experiment, which is human cloning. Yeah. So he has been trying to create a clone, but they always wind up failing in the process because of impurities or mismatches, and as they try to create the clone. But this time, using this specimen, because it was so unique, it worked. And basically a child was born from the cloning process. And then the question becomes, is this bleeding statue of Christ with this very unique blood, was that Christ's blood? And if it was, if a clone was created from that, is this a clone of Christ? Does this represent the second coming of Christ? So that's my favorite story. It's really not a religious story, not any more so than like the Da Vinci Code. But it isn't really a religious story. It's just got a lot of background in religion. And that is my favorite of all the screenplays I've written.
That's really interesting, actually. And would you have, like, I know you're focused on like Bad Ben and Bad Ben related stuff right now, but would you ever want to try to adapt one of your other screenplays into a film if you had time for that?
The fact of it is I don't really believe I possess the equipment to do that. And even if somebody were to approach me, say, with an unlimited budget, I don't know that when I talk about Bad Ben being my baby, these screenplays I each, hold very near and dear to my heart. I don't know that, I'm not confident, I should say, that when I'm spending somebody else's money and not mine, I'm saying to myself, you'd probably be better off hiring a director and other crew to do something like that, to make them full-length films that are theater quality.
Yeah. Okay, so shifting back to Bad Ben and the character, more specifically, the character of Tom Riley, your character, and I really like the character of Tom Riley because all the other ghost movies that I've seen, everyone who gets haunted or possessed or anything, they're like all scared and all that. But he doesn't really seem to give a shit either way. Like, it's just, like it always seems like he's done with the demon or the ghosts that are haunting him.
Well, the in Bad Ben, Tom has taken every cent he had, and he managed to bid on and win the bid on a house that went to foreclosure and was sold in a sheriff's sale. So by doing that, he was surprised that he won, first of all, the bid. But truth be told, people that knew the history of the house, because there had been, which you find out actually in that movie, there had been a murder-suicide in the house. Most people wouldn't want it. And that the stories of ghost stories and possessions in the house, most people wouldn't want it. Tom didn't do the research. He bid on a house, he got it, and he thought he was like, yay, and he gets this place. And then when he gets in there and immediately things start happening, he can't just walk away from this place because every penny he had, his entire life savings, went into this purchase. So he had to deal with whatever was in there and try to get it out so that he could then sell a clean house. So that's why he stayed in there. Now, he in real life, if Nigel Bach was to walk in a house that he just bought and hear that smash in the basement the very first moment he's in the house, I probably would come back with a flamethrower and try to deal with whatever. But my character, Tom Riley, he just took a more, first of all, he didn't believe it. He thought there were people pranking him, people breaking in the house, trying to scare him away. And then eventually he came to realize that something malevolent was actually happening there. And then he had to deal with that, because at first he thought he could just drive whatever kids were in the house scaring him, trying to scare him. He thought he could drive them out. But then when he realized he was dealing with ghosts, if you remember the scene in the attic where in the ashes was written, "Not your home." This is another favorite scene of fans. And then I scribbled out and I said, it is my home. You're wrong. It is my home. People laugh at that. And at the same time, they think this character has some real balls because he would do that when something broke. But that's what people say makes me seem, the character seem like he's from the Northeast, because he's got that Philadelphia, New York, I don't give a shit attitude.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that if this were actually happening here, I would be that cool and calm and collected, but that's who Tom Riley was and who Tom Riley is.
Yeah. I have a small question about the ashes scene. How did you get the effect of them writing in the ashes without, like, the ghost writing in the ashes?
Well, that came out great, but it was pretty simple to do. What I did was first I wrote "Not Your Home" with my fingers in the ashes, and then I filmed from overhead. The camera's locked down. I scratch it out.
Yeah.
And spawn. And what I did was, by remember I said earlier about laying one identical scene over another, by having the ashes pristine, where I wrote "Not Your Home" with my finger, I just slowly cut out the portions of the video that was pristine ashes and made the writing appear. And then at the end, I just wiped it out for real. But it looked very impressive, but it was relatively simple to do. It's just like, if you could imagine, if I took two pieces of paper over each other, and this has writing on it and this doesn't, I would just move this as I go. And because they were the same color, you wouldn't notice this first one, and the writing beneath it would appear.
Yeah.
So I took a pristine picture of the ashes over top of the ashes with "Not Your Home" written in them, and I just slid that picture away, or wiped it away, and that's how it appeared. But I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, because a lot of the effects in the movie are pretty good for the budget you had and like the amount of equipment you have. It's really impressive what you've been able to do with such little, like all of that.
My question to you, James, is: did you find it pretty good or really good?
It was really good. I really enjoyed the whole franchise. I really like those movies.
Okay, great.
And going back to what you said about going into a haunted house, and if Tom Riley is so stubborn and he's he wants to stay in his house no matter what, but if you went in there, you'd want to burn it down with a flamethrower. That's exactly how I would feel in that situation. I'm getting out of there, burn the house down.
Well, remember
Yeah.
the whole back the Tom's thing is he's motivated by money.
Yeah.
And when he first in Bad Ben, he first buys the house. He doesn't have any money anywhere but in that house. So he can't leave.
Yeah.
He can't burn the house down. He can't tear it down. He's got to deal with what's in there. And then when he comes back in Badder Ben, the third film, it's because he's being paid to come there with a crew to do an interview. And then the fourth film is basically Bad Ben repeating itself, as it's called the Mandela effect.
Yeah, the Mandela
alternate timelines keep bringing them back. The fifth film, another family owns the home, but Tom comes there towards the end of it to help deal with whatever's there. And then the sixth film, he's called back again by a new owner of the home because they think he's got the most experience. And he's called there, but he's paid to be there. And then the seventh film, he's making money doing this ride share, and he winds up back at that house again. The eighth film, he's in the house. It's pandemic. He's dealing with all these different people. And then the ninth film, he comes back to the house, believing for all purposes when he comes back that it's his house. But it turns out it probably isn't. Well, we kind of gave some spoilers away, so at the end, it turns out it isn't his home.
Well, yeah. Tom is probably one of my favorite horror protagonists because of how different he is from the average horror protagonist.
Well, yeah, most of them aren't as good looking as me. I agree with you. But yeah, a lot of people say that, and it's very flattering to hear that. But they because I think the term they use is that Tom Riley is everyman. He's just a normal, average Joe with some comedic timing that's dealing with evil, like the Ash versus Evil Dead series. That's very similar. The lead character in that is is pretty gutsy guy, but they're funny and scary at the same time.
Yeah, I love the Evil Dead movies. I love those. I love that story. I love those characters. When you wanted to originally make Bad Ben, I mean, of course you were inspired to do found footage, but did anything else inspire you in creating the series later on, or?
Beyond that, I just wanted to continue the story because the story is liked by so many people of Bad Ben. I wanted to continue that story to, how there's certain films you would come back to time and time again.
Yeah.
And for instance, The Conjuring. The first movie was great. They've all been good. The most recent one, The Devil Made Me Do It, wasn't maybe as good as the others. But the truth of it is, if they made 30 Conjurings, I would watch 30 films.
Because you're just there for the story. Yeah.
You like the Ed and Lorraine Warren in that. Their characters are very well played. And I would just keep watching that. And in this case, it's just I kept building on the story. And at one point I thought, I really need to get out of the house because how many times can I shoot in this house? But I've come to find out that the house is actually a celebrity. Just like in the Amityville Horror, where, the Amityville Horror isn't shot in a condominium. It's shot in that house with those arched windows up there. And, those half circle windows that are split in half. There's an actual architectural name for them. I don't know what it is. But, that's synonymous with the Amityville Horror films, which they made money. So this house, people have come to know as the house where the Bad Ben occurrences happen.
Oh yeah, it is a very nice house at that. You're still there, right? Yeah,
This is right where I'm sitting right now is where at the end of Bad Ben, I was drug across the floor. At the other end of this room is the the wood stove that I was drugged towards.
Yeah, every time we watch one of those movies, we all compliment the house. Like it's a very nice house. Like it really is.
Buy it? Do you want to buy it?
How much?
Uh,
I don't have the money for that. No.
Make me an offer. Put every penny you had into it, and then I can't guarantee it's not haunted once you do it.
Well, we're nearing the hour mark here, so once again, thank you for wanting to do this and coming on. It was very nice talking to you, and I hope you had a good time.
It was my absolute pleasure to be here, James, and I'm glad you asked me. I love talking about these films, and I love meeting people like you. And now your listeners, I get to meet. They all know me. So we're just expanding the Bad Ben universe every day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, and have a good day. And yeah, I'm gonna stop.
Thank you for having me, and till next time.
Till next time. Yeah, maybe there will be. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.